Hi, I am Ganesh. Today I am going to talk all about climate risk. With the very welcome and intensifying public interest in climate change and the risks it presents to businesses large and small, we have received numerous questions covering the entire spectrum of climate-related risks. This piece was developed to facilitate and expedite understanding of climate change and climate-related risks, intended for those seeking an entry-level understanding of the subject for their business needs, or those with a general interest in the subject. Weather typically describes the meteorological conditions at a point in time, at a specific place or region. For example, if it's raining outside today, that's a way to describe today's weather. Other weather events include sunshine, wind, snow, hurricanes, and tornadoes. Climate is more than just 1 or 2 rainy days. Climate describes the weather conditions that are expected at a specific place or region, at a particular time of year. Climate change is a change in the patterns of weather, such as temperature or rainfall, at a place or region over a long period of time. Climate change also includes changes in oceans, land surfaces, shrinking mountain glaciers, accelerating ice melt in Antarctica and the Arctic, and shifts in flower and plant blooming times and agricultural cycles, occurring over decades or even longer. Scientists at NASA and other august scientific institutions have observed a warming of the Earth's surface. The recent report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, published in August 2021, included the following highlights. Unequivocal evidence that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, the oceans, and the land. Widespread, rapid, and intensifying climate change. Sea level rises and other changes that are irreversible. The science is very compelling and the report provides a solid fact base for those interested or those who may be faced with climate science deniers. Global temperature records show a well-documented rise since the early 20th century. Of particular concern, these temperature increases have been accelerating in very recent years. Since the late 1980s, global temperatures are rising and are now at their highest since records began. The 20 warmest years on record have been in the past 22 years. Much of the increased global temperatures have been absorbed by the oceans where we see rising ocean surface. Now let's talk about climate-related risks. What are climate-related risks? Climate-related financial risks, or climate risks, are the financial risks linked to climate change. Climate risks can affect balance sheets and lead to losses through standard channels such as increased costs, diminished asset valuations, or increased loan defaults. Climate-related risks are typically classified as either physical or transition risks, and organizations need to consider the range of climate-related risks they could be exposed within each of these categories. Physical risks. Physical risks are those related to the physical impacts of climate change, such as increased frequency and severity of extreme weather events, e.g., wildfires, cyclones, hurricanes, floods. Physical risks can lead to disruption to your business, heightened levels of operational risks in your business, damage to your physical assets, failures in the transportation systems which can impact your business, disruption to the supply chain which can impact your business. Transition risks. Transition risks are those risks related to the transition to a lower carbon economy, such as the introduction of a carbon tax, increased regulations, heightened permitting requirements and increased exposure to lawsuits. Transition risks can lead to policy-driven increased costs, e.g., carbon tax, which can significantly alter the underlying economics of the business and force changes to your business model. Liability-driven increased costs, e.g., from increased lawsuits. Market-driven demand reductions, e.g., from consumer demand. Technology-driven risks, e.g., from stranded assets resulting from the introduction of new technologies. Why are climate-related risks important? Climate change is a source of significant risk to global financial stability. And the numbers are increasing fast. Central banks and financial regulators around the world recognize that climate change is a source of risk to the stability of the global financial system. They also agree that the pricing of climate-related risk with its specific challenges, including lack of relevant historical information, nonlinear nature, and long-term characteristics, is a challenge for corporations, financial institutions, and the financial markets. Who is exposed to climate-related risks? We are all exposed to climate-related risks. Individuals, households, small businesses, large business, organizations, governments, and countries large and small are all exposed to climate-related risks. Clearly, living in or near an area prone to fire risk or subject to flooding or exposed to increased sea levels carries increased exposure and vulnerability to physical risks. How do we assess, manage, and reduce climate-related risk? A key directive of the G20 group of countries is that material climate-related risks be disclosed in a comparable, consistent, and decision-useful manner so that investors have clear visibility about where their money is invested. Risk frameworks have been developed to help organizations approach their climate-related risk assessment and disclosure requirements. The framework most widely used and recognized, and most likely to be adopted as the global standard, comes from the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure, TCFD, 2017. TCFD presents its framework across the 4 areas of governance, strategy, risk management, and metrics and targets. Delivered in 2017, it addresses all organizations and provides a tailored framework for some of the key sectors within the financial industry, addressing some of the questions pertinent to that industry. For example, banks. Do you have appropriate insight into the GHG emissions you are financing through your loan portfolio? Do you understand your customers' physical and transition risks and the financial exposure related to these risks? Insurers, do you have insight into the physical and transition risks related to the policies you are underwriting for businesses? Asset owners, do they have visibility into the climate-related risks in your portfolio holdings? Prior to an acquisition, do you fully understand the climate-related risks inherent in the business you are acquiring? Asset managers, does your board engage on climate-related issues? Have climate-related risks been integrated into the overall enterprise risk analysis?